Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So for this week's Torah portion, we are starting off in Deuteronomy, or Devarim, which leads us to this week's Torah portion, which is Devarim. That means words are to speak. Beginning in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 3, verse 22. So the journey from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea is only about 11-day journey. But due to the sins of Israel, it actually took them about 38 years. From when Moshe gave this speech, he would pass away only 33 days later. So now, as we open in the beginning of Deuteronomy, we see that Moshe is speaking a command from Yahweh, and he is telling the children of Israel to leave Horeb, or Mount Sinai, or in Hebrew, Har Sinai, the site in which where the laws of Adonai were given, and that they were to go from Kadesh Barnea, which is the holy sacred desert of wandering. Now, do not forget that Kadesh Barnea is also the place where in Numbers chapter 13 through 14, that the 12 spies were sent to spy the land of promise and came back with 10 of them out of the 12, minus Joshua and Caleb having the bad report, causing the children of Israel to lose faith and question Moshe, who represented Yahweh's leadership, causing them to spend 40 years in the wilderness for defiance. But that's not all. Kadesh Barnea is also the site where Korah led his rebellion in Numbers 16. Though, sadly enough, this site, Kadesh Barnea, was also the site where Moshe defied Yahweh and struck the rocks for water, rather than speaking to it, preventing him from ever entering into the promised land in which he was leading the children of Israel to. Now, they were to journey to land that Yahweh swore to their fathers, and to take, you hear this, to take possession of it. Did you know that Moshe, in his opening speech, spoke with Devar, which means to speak harsh or rebuke? And why? Because it showed them that they fell short of living Torah and righteous. Now, this is a great lesson for all of us to learn, that we shouldn't get vengeful at all. And that those close to us that rebuke us, we shouldn't get ashamed of them or want to get aggression or get even, as most people would, with them for telling them these things for better them and to help them. And why is that? Because, see, it can help us spiritually grow by reflecting on what we have been doing wrong and seeing our mistakes. Now, always think about this when being rebuked, as it is a gift and also a challenge. Will you overcome it? Now, you guys and girls might be thinking in Deuteronomy that it's going back in time. And it isn't. How so? Okay. Well, currently, with Moshe making his goodbye speech to the children of Israel, he's reminding them of all that Yahweh did for them, the past, and how he was fulfilling his promise to their forefathers, the present, the future, while all the same encouraging to remember all their training and encouraging them to stay faithful as they entered into the promised land. You see, they were being remolded at that point. They were being fixed from the errors that they learned along the way while they were living in Egypt and seeing all the worship to the pagan gods and everything else that was going on in the land. So Yahweh was renewing them and refreshing them and having them relearn what the proper way was that they already originally learned, but they had forgotten. Now, we can learn a great lesson from Moshe in Numbers 31:21. Now, Rashi states that since Moshe became so angry at the soldier returning from the battle with the Midianite woman who caused them to worship Baal Peor, he had been so angry that he forgot to have them remove the non-kosher taste from the utensils by purifying them through fire and water. But remember now that Moshe let his anger get the best of him before the point of Numbers 20 verse 10 and 11, where his anger caused him to strike the rock instead of speaking to it, as we just spoke of. Now you see what it is with this anger. We must control our anger. Now, how many of you were ever so angry at someone that you either said something so hurtful to someone, or you let your anger turn so much into aggression that you actually came in physical contact and hit or punched someone, just as Moshe did when he struck the rock? So you see, anger can cloud our kadosh, our holy judgment, and it is a way that Satan sneaks into us. Now, we must evict him from all areas of our life and not let anger keep us from fulfilling the will of Yahweh. Moshe is reminding the children of Israel of such things as when he sought Yahweh for help to take some of the burden off of him from all of the numerous complaints and problems of the children of Israel, who were so many in multitudes. Now, what Yahweh told him what he was to do, and how it was a good thing by telling him to take and choose from the 12 tribes wise, experienced, and understanding men to become appointed as heads of the tribes. Now, Moshe is showing how Yahweh is always there for us and would never give us more than we could handle. Moshe is showing how he anointed judges over the children of Israel to help out their brethren, and with fair, righteous judgment at that. Also, that if there was ever any problems too hard, that they could bring it to Yahweh through Moshe, and that Yahweh would tell them what to do about it. Moshe also recounts when Israel had refused to take and enter into the promised land, about how they rejected the word of Yahweh and requested to spy out the promised land for themselves, about how they brought back some of the good food of the land, but still, and get this, still ultimately lacked faith with the bad report from the 10 spies about the Nephilim, or the giants, the Raphaim in the land, about how they then rebelled against the command of Yahweh, our Adonai, to possess the land. Now that Moshe told them that they are not to fear, because Yahweh, who went before them, would help fight for them, not against them, but with and for them. But they still rebelled and did not believe. The same Adonai who went before them in the way to seek out a place for them to pitch a tent in fire by night and in a cloud by day, to show them where to go to lead them. Moshe also recounts how there was a penalty now for their defiance, and about how Adonai was angered at this evil generation, promising that none of these evil men of that generation would ever enter into the promised land, except for the 2 who came back with the good report, Caleb and Joshua, because of their faith and loyalty to Yahweh, along with the little ones and their children who had no knowledge, shachma, of good and evil. So their shachma, their knowledge of good and evil, wasn't there yet. While recalling how all those rebellious Israelites tried to confess their sin against Adonai and go for themselves up to fight and repent and take the land, even though, now get this, Yahweh told them that at that point he was not with them and that they would surely die. Just like in the Garden of Eden, they would surely die. And how they rebelled and went against his word and went anyways and got killed and returned and tried once again to apologize to Yahweh. But this time, he did not listen. So Moshe recounts all that happened in the wilderness, including passing through Esau, Yahweh given land, along with others given land in the wilderness during the 38 years, accounting how Yahweh provided for others along with them. Now, until the entire evil generation, that is the men of war, had perished from the camp, as Yahweh promised. So after this evil generation was gone, Adonai tells the children of Israel to cross the border of Moab at Ar, which is the land that Yahweh had gave to the sons of Lot. So they are to remain safe and protected, as Yahweh always, and always I say, keeps and protects all of his true and obedient children. Now, this is a good and great example of what having Yahweh on your side is all about. Everlasting peace, Shabbat, and safety. So now it is time for the children of Israel to start to truly acquire their promised land, as Yahweh instructs the children of Israel to rise up and to go over to the valley of Arnon, because Yahweh is giving them to their hands. Now, Sihon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, along with his land as possession, and Yahweh told the Israelites to contend with him in battle, as he would strike fear in others when they would hear about the children of Israel and about the accounts of all they did and of Yahweh. Now Moshe next recounts how Sihon would not let them pass through, and how Yahweh hardened his heart as Sihon, close to battle against the Israelites, and how he lost, and how Yahweh gave him and his territory, his land, to the children of Israel, as they had killed all of them and took their livestock and spoil for themselves. Now, as following, they went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came against them, but Yahweh gave them in their land and all their people to the Israelites, as they destroyed them and took all their possessions, as Yahweh had promised, accounting how the territory beginning at Arad and half the hill country of Gilead was given to the Reubenites and the Gadites, and how the rest of the land of the Rephaim, the giants, was given to half tribe of Manasseh, just as in last week's Torah portion in the ending of Numbers. This was in the Transjordan. And how they, in order to keep the land, were to go before Adonai and possess the land for the rest of their brethren, the children of Israel. Now we can learn a great lesson from them. See, Yahweh was stating and showing that all of his people are to look out for and protect all of their brethren. Just as they had a safe place in home, Yahweh instructed them to also make sure that they went and also made a safe place in home for their brethren. So, if for instance you had a home finished and built, you are to next make sure that your brethren too has your help to help them build a home. Because Yahweh provided for you, and just as you were given freely, you are to provide and help with others as a blessing from Yahweh through you to them. Now, the Torah portion ends with Moshe giving pleasing words of encouragement, letting them know that just as Adonai had done with the two kings, he would too do to all the kingdoms before them, the children of Israel. He would destroy them, and that they should not fear or yirai, because it is Adonai, their Yahweh, that fights with them. So now, as in Devarim, or Deuteronomy 3:11, who was this Og king of Bashan that the Israelites just destroyed? While he was the only remaining Rephaim, a tribe of giants, and Moshe tells us that if at any time of the writing of this, that if we wanted proof that he and they were giants, that all that they had to do was to see his bid. Now, Raphaim is a Hebrew word for giants. Now, Moshe states to see his bid, or in other words, his sarcophagus, as proof of his size, which was in the city of Rabbah of the Amorites. They said his bid was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. So according to the standard cubit of a man's forearm, it is between 3.5 inches to about 17.5 inches. So if we go by 13.5 inches, the lower of the average, his bid was about 13.5 feet by 6 feet at minimum. So you see how big it was. He was about 13.5 feet for his bid size. So we're looking at this, and this was truly a giant, as it was stated. Just as he does for each and every one of his children today, are those not words of encouragement for us all here today? To sum it up, Yahweh is showing that by living by the Torah, we will still and always live righteously. Now, as we get into our half-Torah portion, as it was written right before the destruction of the temple, we start noticing a resonating theme. As with our Torah portion, and that theme is rebellion against Yahweh. As Yahweh states that the children of Israel keep rebelling against him, as a ox and a donkey knows its owner, it is not something that could be said for the children of Israel. You see, as it is, most men are laden with iniquity, an offspring of evildoers, not knowing the ways of goodness, and they deal corruptly, and most of all, they forsake Yahweh, not realizing that if they were his, that he would truly never forsake them. But because the world, as did the children of Israel, they do not seek Yahweh or his guidance or his protection. They want to do it all for and by themselves. Meaning that they want to do what is pleasing to them and what only benefits them and not others. They do not treat others as they want others to treat them, but they expect others to treat them the way they want to be treated. Why? This is because, as it's always been foretold in the Bible, or the Torah, the Brit Kadash, because they are hard-hearted, constantly adding layers of clay over layers of clay, over the hearts, over the years, as they pull away from Yahweh in the truth. See, without Yahweh, you will truly die, because if you look at it this way, with all the weight of the clay that is constantly added, you are adding and adding obstruction to your heart and lungs. And if you can't breathe, then you will what? Surely die. And if the breath of life leaves you, what is left? If you have no true spirit, ruach in you, given by Yahweh, you have what? Exactly nothing. Think about that. Now, Yahweh wants us to cease to do evil and to learn to do good, and to seek justice and to correct oppression. Now, if we are willing and obedient, we shall eat the good of the land. But if we refuse and rebel, we will be destroyed. Now, some must choose to seek life or to seek death. What will you choose? Choose this day whom you will serve. Remember that Zion shall be redeemed by justice, and those in her that repent by righteousness, not sin or lawlessness, but righteousness. And last but not least, we must stop these pagan traditions in place of Yahweh's holy days. We must observe. Now, Yahweh's holy feast days are the things that we are to observe, and not pagan holidays. So you see what I'm saying? It is yes for holy days, but no to holidays. As in Leviticus 23. Now, as Yahweh tells us in Isaiah or Yeshayahu 1:14, when Yahweh states, "Your new moon and your appointed seasons my soul hates. They are a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them." You see, Yahweh said this is something that he hates, us observing these pagan holidays rather than his holy days. As we don't have time, please look into all of the Christian holidays and see all of the pagan traditions and worship behind them, especially Christmas and Easter, to say the least. Now, please seek to observe Yahweh's holy feast days that is listed in Leviticus chapter 23. As we have just read, Yahweh states that he hates pagan traditions and appointed feast in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 1:14. So now you have officially been warned. So when you have to answer at judgment for this and you state that you did not know about the holy days versus the holidays, you've just been warned to seek it out now. So you had no excuse. Remember this. Now in our gospel portion, we see that the chief priest and the scribes were seeking to arrest and to silence Yeshua by stealth. Now this is exactly how the enemy works in secret, such as with Satan and his mainstream media and his mainstream news outlets. They use secretive, esoteric messages and let the world know only what they want them to know, while keeping what is good and what they should know secretive. Now, Yeshua, at this point of the gospel portion, is awaiting to fulfill his will as he instructs his disciples to restrain from bad-mouthing the women, or the woman who, with the alabaster flask, bought it for the using of its contents to anoint Yeshua before his burial. Now, what many did not see in this is that she had more faith at that moment than his apostles did, his disciples. And why is that? Well, they constantly heard Yeshua state that he would not always be with them and that he would be offered up for the saving of us. But they, just as in the wilderness with the bad report of the 10 spies, rebelled against what Adonai had told them and did not believe that he would leave them. But this woman with the alabaster flask, she did. Now the irony here and the parallel is how she prepared Yeshua as the sacrifice. And in Mark 14:16, the disciples were then told to go themselves and prepare the Passover lamb meal for Passover. But nobody stopped or tried to stop them as they did to the woman preparing Yeshua as our sacrifice by anointing him. Now I will let you think on that for the week as we come to a closing on that. And now we will have the Aaronic blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. This has been a weekly Messianic Torah portion from Following Yeshua Ministries. For more information or for help, please visit www.followyeshuanow.com. Shabbat Shalom.
Hashem Elohecha b'chol levav Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.